And we're live. Welcome, everybody, to Appropriate Culture. We have another special guest here today, Ricardo Parker, good friend of mine, and a founder of Chronos Global Academy. We're going to be diving into all kinds of topics today, and I guess first things first, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Lucas. It's great to see you and great to be talking with you.
Yeah, man, you as well. Are you in Seattle right now?
I'm still in Seattle. I love Seattle. I've been here in part because of the pandemic, but now that my daughter is here also, I'm sort of just not going very far, let's just say.
Yeah, I feel it. I mean, has because you're from Brazil. That's actually one of the main things that got us connected. My
Right.
dad was the one who introduced us to each other. And so, what made you want to come to Seattle?
So it was always my dream to move to the United States and live here. That was always something that I wanted to do as a child. But I think a lot of my like when you have a dream and you tell your friends and your family, but they don't really take it seriously. They're like, "Oh, that's nice. You're gonna be a rock star, or you're gonna be an actor or a footballer, right?"
Yeah,
In my case, it was to live here, and so I got more serious when I was 15, and I was becoming more independent. And then when I was 18, I made up my mind. And then when I was 19, I moved. Why I picked Seattle is because a lot of my friends had gone to California, and it seemed like kind of the place to go. And Seattle looked a lot more unique. Seattle was close to Canada. I also like Canada very much. So I thought, it's a great opportunity to just go visit Canada from there. And
right.
largely Microsoft, which was the largest software company in the world at the time, for a long time, they were
Yeah.
located here. So that made it an easy decision for me. Like, that's where I'm going.
Okay. And so, I guess another point of reference that it seems like we both have worked for Microsoft. And when I was working for Microsoft, I was working for their VR department for the
Oh
headset, the
yeah,
HoloLens.
right. I
And
forgot about
so
that.
yeah, so I was with them for about 3 years, travel all around the world, showcase the product in beta version. Just a lot of the clients and different partners that Microsoft had. We went to China, Africa, Europe, you name it, South America. And so tell me a little bit about what you were doing in Microsoft and then your transition from that to owning your own company and starting Chronos.
So I've pursued many dreams in my life. I mentioned that one of them was to live here, right, in the United States. I also have the dream of starting my own company. So, and I had my dream of working for Microsoft, which happened 2 years after I moved here. So when we say Microsoft, Microsoft has changed a lot. It's a very
Yeah.
different company today. But when I joined Microsoft, they had just surpassed 30,000 employees. So it was just very different at the time. There was a feeling of a startup in some ways because they were growing really fast. But if you talk to people, even in this area, they didn't really think that it would grow so big. They thought, oh, it's at its peak. It's maybe a bubble. But Microsoft ended up surpassing 100,000 employees, which in the tech industry was really remarkable.
Yeah,
The,
that's
the tech
something else.
industry, the tech industry was growing, and it wasn't very big at the time. Now in Brazil, it was really super small, but even in the United States, it was still growing, and a lot of companies were surprised that what did Microsoft or companies like Microsoft had in terms of value, because they were listed in the stock market all of a sudden, but they were basically just a campus with some computers and people working, right? And a lot of people
Yeah.
didn't understand the value of software. Today we do. Today it's very established, but I kind of joined Microsoft around that time, not too early, but also somewhat in the beginning. And my goal was to establish myself as a software engineer. So basically, I was a machinist in Brazil.
Okay.
I went to a school called Senai. I don't know if you know, but it's very popular in Brazil because it's
What state was that in?
that was in São Paulo, but
São
it's a
Paulo?
national program. They have apprenticeship programs like all over the world. It's kind of it really trains you at an early age, like 14 years old. I think
Mm-hmm.
they have programs for adults, but their main program is for really almost like a child that's starting to work. You do it full time. You do it for 3 years. You log a lot of hours in the lab and learning theory and learning in practice. So I was really blessed with that opportunity. But um, I started working with CNC machines, which is using computers, right? And then I was just fascinated with software, and I thought I got to really take a big jump because there's no real industry in Brazil for that, and people
Yeah.
didn't understand it in Brazil. You had to buy all the computers that were expensive and imported. So when I came here, my goal was to work for Microsoft, and when I had the opportunity, I was really establishing myself as an engineer. So I was there for 6 years, and I had that opportunity, and it was great. Then I left to pursue my dream to start my company. Uh, that was a real lesson for me because it's a very different world that we could talk about.
Yeah.
But since then, Microsoft changed a lot. It became much more mature. It got different CEOs, right? It got two different CEOs. And today, it's just a very different company. At the time, I got to work on the Windows operating system. And basically, Microsoft had two major products, Windows and Office, for a very long
Right.
time. And at the time, everything just made sense. Today, it doesn't make sense to really work on products like that anymore, right?
Sure. And so, at what year did you decide to leave Microsoft and start your own thing?
I left Microsoft in mid 2003.
Okay.
So at the time, we had just started working on Windows Vista. And we were really on top of the world. I remember
I
walking
remember
through the
that.
house.
Yeah,
I remember walking through the halls of Microsoft and engineers, literally, because we were working on the Windows team, right? Literally, they would say, we could just make anything and people will buy it, in part because they were a monopoly. But, Windows was responsible for over 95% of all operating systems at the time.
Yeah.
Linux wasn't even a thing. And that's when I think people got very complacent, which resulted in Windows Vista being a pretty big failure. Uh, but I was working on that, and that's when I left in the beginning of it. We had just launched the operating system prior to that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I did notice that when I was in Microsoft for a little bit, that there was a little bit of a energy where the company was so big and it was doing so well across the board that many projects that started from within the company that they thought were going to be huge never saw the light of day. And you could probably account for this, how there's so many projects that are being worked on, but they never even get released. They'll tend to just scrap full teams and projects because it's not really playing out the way that they thought. Do you think that's because what you said earlier, people became a little bit too confident, a little bit too comfortable?
Microsoft was a very big company even when I was there. So I can only speak for like my department and things, right? I don't know the
Yeah.
entire. I mean, you do know the culture a little bit in terms of the whole corporate culture. But in terms of like the Windows team that I worked on, yeah, people got very arrogant, and that's just something that goes with
Success.
the nature of it. Yeah, yeah, it was incredible, an astounding success, really. I mean, everybody there, we were all making a lot of money, and there were just endless opportunities. I wasn't an entrepreneur at the time. I had a lot of ideas. I've always had a lot of ideas. Today, I consider myself an established entrepreneur. So in hindsight, if I could go back, I would have spoken up and really expressed my ideas and sought funding that we had inside the company because
Within the
it was
company.
there. Yeah, because it was there. And if you went to the right person and you said, I have an idea for a product that I think is going to be successful and popular, but I need to build a team. I need to, make it a reality. I think it was fairly easy to do. Fairly easy to do,
I guess if
right?
you would have
Because there
done
was a
that,
lot of that happening.
I
Yeah.
probably would have been working on your team
Yeah, it's
later,
possible.
later down the road, right?
Right. Yeah. I was very young at the time, and I thought very differently. And a lot of these ideas, I just kind of kept it to myself. Told a few of my coworkers, but didn't really put myself out there. Didn't really put my neck on the
On the line.
line, so to speak.
Yeah.
which is why you have to do a lot of times. A lot of people at Microsoft did that. They really took a huge risk, but then that paid off because Microsoft was in a unique position to really produce products and bring them to market.
Yeah.
So, having said that, there were a lot of projects that didn't go anywhere. Windows and Office were the cash cow for the company. I got to work on both, which was really rewarding to me. But some projects were successful, others were not, and Microsoft really put their hand in a lot of different things. I got to
Sure.
work on Encarta as an example. Encarta is actually something that I dreamed of. When I was a child, my parents ended up spending a lot of money on this huge encyclopedia, right? The books are really tall and they're this thick, and there were like 20 of them. You're supposed to have the whole knowledge of the whole world in that
Right there on your
library, right?
fingertips. Yeah.
So of course, a lot of us thought of something that was pretty obvious. What would it be? What would it be like to put that on a CD-ROM, right? And make them more interactive instead of just text and images, right?
Yeah.
And we did that, and I got to participate in that. It was a bit of a stint for me. I wasn't officially on the team, but it was fun. It was fun. I got to work with them, and that was one of the things that I would say it was pretty successful, but it wasn't their main product. But Microsoft had the unique opportunity to do things like that because they had so much revenue and so much funding that they could really afford to work on all this variety of projects.
It seemed like they were definitely aware of building an ecosystem where lots of products depended on each other. And if you got this product and you can connect it with this product, and then so much creating a world where you don't want to leave the Microsoft world is sort of what I picked up from them.
Yeah, I mean, they actually wanted to work on everything. They wanted to own everything. They wanted to be the industry, you could say. And the culture at the time was very much, it's almost like a religion, right? It's heresy to use someone else's product, even if your product is inferior. Even if your product is inferior, you use that and you say it's better than everyone else's, and you introduce it to the market that way. And Microsoft had a lot of success that way. There were a lot of people that would refuse, even people that didn't work there, to use anyone else's product. And for a time, even after I left, it was not. It was looked down to bring an iPhone to work, for example, because the iPhone was very new, and at the time, it wasn't something that everyone had. And of course, it's okay to have an iPhone. So in the beginning, it was really looked down, like, why aren't you using a Windows phone or something? But Microsoft spent billions of dollars
I can answer
on
that one.
and they lost money on that, But
oh yeah, I think that's one department Microsoft never really got it right, was the cell phone. I don't know why, but they always had the opportunity and the the leverage, but they just never quite did the cell phone part right.
I don't want to be too opinionated on this, but there are things that you do where you succeed, and there are things you do that you don't succeed, and that's just that. There are many things they did that were directly competing with Apple where they didn't succeed, like the Zoom, right? Zoom was a product that would compete with the iPod. Now, Microsoft had a lot of success introducing products that would just compete with someone else's product. They had just a lot of money to spend, but in some projects, they just wasted billions of dollars. One thing that gave Microsoft a lot of confidence that they can do it, in addition to the monopoly that they had, was Xbox. So Xbox was really built from the ground up. They were competing against a major company, Sony, and they were really head-to-head. And even to this day, some people are really hardcore Xbox users that will not use PlayStation, and vice versa, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And then other people will use both, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, they're both really great. They're both really comparable in quality." And that's really amazing that Microsoft entered a very different industry, which is video games, and they really achieved success on many levels, right? I mean, what's the name? The name Halo was a mega success.
Huge.
They acquired, right? Yeah.
That's one of the classics.
And so I think that because that's a company in itself that many people don't get to even accomplish as a company. Microsoft basically built on another company inside Microsoft. They thought, well, we can really get into this market and succeed, and the rate of success is really high for us. And in
Yeah.
some ways, it just wasn't. And then when you realize that you're just not going to win, you've already spent multiple billions of dollars. And that's not for me to judge, right? Because I don't make
Yeah.
those decisions. But working on some of those projects, I had fun and I had a lot of luck, and it was a really great time. It was different at the time. The mentality was different. Today, Microsoft is considered another company. Have you heard of the
Yeah.
term defanged?
Defanged.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a term that some people use in Silicon Valley. It has to do with Facebook, like the big companies, Facebook and Google and Apple. But I think Microsoft is not included in that.
and
So
what is
today,
exactly, what does it entail?
it's the companies that dominate the industry,
Okay.
right? So there's kind of a mention in terms of when you're talking of those companies, right? And
Right.
Microsoft isn't really that company anymore. At the time, they dominated the industry, but today they're not even a major threat. For example, if Microsoft went away, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, and their cloud business disappeared, we would still have an industry,
Yeah. You would have a
right?
lot of other options.
Because they're not even the major player in that. Amazon
Yeah.
is, and then you also have Google and other
Google.
companies.
Yeah.
But Microsoft is a major player in that. They're just not essential.
Sure.
So they've become a very different company. They're a lot more responsible. I mean, with their finances at the time, when I was there, it was a lot of fun. We had parties every week for the whole company
Yeah.
with
They actually kind of
unlimited
did that. When I was
unlimited
there, they did
wine
a lot of that
and
too.
look, check this out, unlimited wine and beer.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
never
No.
charge, and they would never say, they would bring companies from outside to do the catering, and they would never say, you've had enough alcohol. And
Yeah.
that was a fantastic time, but I suspect they don't do that anymore.
Actually, while I was working there were still plenty of events, different, aspects that you could just go and sort of turn off the work environment mentality and just
Yeah,
have a good time with people. So that still happened. Now, probably maybe not as often or that much, availability as far as free things just to grab and just enjoy yourself. But they definitely put some effort into creating parties. After a lot of the HoloLens events, there was always a party. There was always where they start to bring out the alcohol. Everybody start to have a good time, just chatting up. And you probably have gone to several of these events where they're about a week long. Everybody's showing up. Everybody's staying in hotels, and there's demos happening. There's different new products being showcased, and so I do remember that was a lot of fun. They get you with a company card. You're out there in a different city, and you're just enjoying yourself, but you got to do what's important, which is do your job first before enjoying yourself in a way where you can't carry yourself. And so, as long as that was never an issue, like you said, they didn't mind how you went about things.
yeah. I think that I'm speaking from my memories from when I was there. Of course, there are many things about Microsoft that I liked that I didn't see in other companies after I worked there. Right, the parties that we had were really company wide. A lot of times, it was really remarkable. Like when I'm talking about endless supply of wine and beer, we're talking the whole company, right?
Yeah,
Which is, it was the largest company in the software industry for a long time.
for a while. Yeah,
That's really remarkable. Everybody worked really hard. We all worked really hard. In fact, sometimes people had to remind us that there was a party going on because it's not like we were just partying all the time. But
yeah,
every time that we went there, the energy was really incredible. And it was always, there was this feeling of celebration. Like we worked really hard, something great got accomplished. We're going to talk about that, and we're here to celebrate that. So it was never like partying before the work. It was always like, hey, yeah,
that came
like,
out. Yeah,
take a little bit of a break. It's time to relax and celebrate now because we've worked really hard and that's really paid off.
yeah.
Very,
And
very
so,
rewarding.
um, I do think it's awesome that I was able to experience the VR industry for several years, which is actually going to allow us to have a much better conversation. I'm no expert, but I definitely expect to learn a little bit from you when it comes down to this industry. For the people out there, I was looking through your website, and I know that you've had this company for quite some time. You're the founder of it, and it seemed like you wanted to take Chronos into all kinds of directions as far as expanding what VR can be for the world, for people. Seems like the teaching academy seemed to be a big part of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. But in regards to that, I guess let's give people a little bit of an insight of what VR is. Perhaps what VR, how does it compare to augmented reality and these different facets?
You know, we spent quite a bit of time talking about Microsoft. Normally, I don't talk about that much about that experience, but I'm very fond of that experience. But it's a good segue, you
Yeah.
know, because it'll make sense with that context. One of the things I like the most about working at Microsoft is that we were, believe it or not, we were always working on future technology and things that would sort of revolutionize life as we know it.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, when we started, there was this mantra that Bill Gates wanted a computer on every desk, but not everybody had a computer. So today, it's really the fulfillment of that, right? But it's remarkable. We take it for granted, but at the time, it was kind of hard to imagine that. It
Yeah.
really was. You know, many people would say, "Why are you working in software? What do you use a computer for?" Can you imagine that people say, "What do you use a computer for?" Today, we don't ask
Yeah.
those
That's
questions because
crazy.
they're just really silly, right? But I took a lot of I got a lot of satisfaction from working on things that when I would go out and talk to lay people, they had no concept and didn't really know what was coming and didn't really understand. So fast forward a little bit, you know, now it's 2014, 2 years after there was a Kickstarter for VR prototype headset, and you know, I acquired one. I've been playing with it, and I'm thinking, this is going to change the world. I need to put everything, all my chips into this because this is going to be big. And that's funny because I was talking to somebody earlier today, Lucas, and I mentioned a story. There was a guy that was visiting me at the office. You've been to the office where we had our
Yeah.
office, right? And
Hmm.
he said, and he brought this prototype. I had one, he had one. We sort of connected, and he said, 2017, 3 years from now, this is going to be ubiquitous. Everybody's going to have one. It's going to be like on every desk. And I thought, well, that's very optimistic, but you know, it's hard to make predictions. He could be right. I know this is going to be revolutionary. So
Right.
here we are in 2021 now talking about this, and VR is borderline mainstream, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's very accessible, fairly inexpensive. A lot of people have it. I don't have to explain to people what virtual reality is anymore, but not everyone has one yet. So
Yeah.
the adoption has been slow for reasons that we could discuss, but
Yeah. Let's go into it.
for reasons that we could discuss, right? But I was back in 2014 thinking, you know, how cool will it be to work on a future technology that people don't yet understand or even know what it is at the time. You know, even when I would say I have a virtual reality company or I'm working with virtual reality, they didn't know what it was. So what is virtual reality? Well, today still it's mostly gaming. But I was looking at the time about the possibilities and I was looking beyond gaming. And because when we started, we were working with prototypes. I hope it's not too much background noise. I was
It's
working
all
with
right.
prototypes, so there wasn't a market, Lucas. So imagine you're starting a company, you're creating a company, and you're thinking we need revenue, right, to
Right.
stay in business, or investment, or both, and nobody can buy any products because VR doesn't exist yet. Today, VR exists. You can go to the store. First of all, you can buy equipment, right? When you buy equipment, there's actually a storefront where you can buy games.
Yeah.
So today you could, let's just say you could make a game and you could sell it and it's a real business that exists. But at the time it didn't. So we thought, I was talking with some people and you know, we were discussing this and they said, hey, you guys have all this knowledge. Why don't you teach other people and start a school? Because then you have revenue. You could make money right now.
Right.
that's kind of how it started. You know, I thought I'm going to feel a need in the market because this is going to go really big. There's going to be a huge need for developers. And so if we train the developers today, down the line, the industry is benefiting from that and we're doing really well. So that's kind of how the academy came to being. The academy was the first one to really offer training to the general public, people like you, people that don't have a background in IT even. We've worked with
Yeah.
all kinds of people. I could talk about that. But nobody was doing that. If you talk to somebody that was really doing VR development, they had been in a computer science program at some particular university, or maybe they were working with the military in something kind of super secret, right?
Hmm.
But it wasn't really available to the public, and we did that. And in hindsight, I would say it's very, very hard work. We've had a lot of success, but it's very hard work. And then I also did the other part of creating content. And creating content was also super challenging for us because we were doing things that were going beyond gaming. And even right now, the gaming VR is still winning over people, including gamers.
Yeah.
So that market is for sure not yet saturated. So imagine bypassing that and going towards things that people don't even understand yet. So, as an example to you, I'll just say this, okay? There's a term, YouTube University, that I'm sure you've heard, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look, today you could go to university, you know, you could get a degree. I'm not going to say anything bad about that. All I can say is that when I worked at Microsoft, I worked with some truly remarkable, amazingly smart people that never had a degree. They
Yeah.
were self-taught, and you can learn anything you want today on the web. And when we
Yeah.
say on the web, a lot of what we're talking about is YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, people will just share the knowledge about anything and it's all there. I'm not saying it's all great. You know, some stuff is better
But
than
it's
others,
there.
but you know, there's like a ton of really great channels that you can subscribe to that channel, and
Yeah.
you're basically subscribing to a level of quality that is there and is something that you understand because people have different
Yeah.
ways of learning, right? So what I'm saying is that that industry got built and it exists today and it's remarkable. And I do think that VR will take that to a whole new level because when you're learning something on YouTube, you're still watching someone else do the doing, and that's very powerful. Way better than, let's just say,
Just
somebody
talent.
giving you instructions on in a book or somebody
Yeah.
telling you to do something, but you don't have any visuals involved.
Hmm.
So it's very powerful. But when you find yourself really, let's just say, fixing that engine, picking up the tools, somebody's guiding you with a voice. Here's what you need to do. You turn that. You look at the instrument. That's way more visceral of an experience that when you go to sleep, you will feel closer. Even let's use another example because you got the looks of a rock star, right? Imagine yourself just playing in a band. You know,
Yeah.
what is your favorite band? Do you have
Um,
one?
I
Because I know you're into electronic
bands.
music.
Yeah, not so many bands, but just specific artists. So I have lots of artists that I follow that are individual basis, and then also DJs and that kind of stuff. So not as many bands, but I can tell you this: one of my favorite bands of all time is Nirvana.
Nirvana. Okay, that's great
Yeah.
because Nirvana is from Seattle. I mean, they're from Aberdeen, Washington, or
Hmm.
so was
Yeah. Yeah.
Kurt Cobain. But it's a band, right? So let's just say that you're really into Nirvana and you love their music, and there's a lot of different elements, right?
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain was the lead singer. I think he was the only one, but there's the guitarist, there's the bass player. So let's just say that you want to be the guitarist. With VR now, you can actually kind of find yourself in a band playing with them and
Right.
literally removing the sound and playing the guitar. And as you're doing it, you're actually learning how to play that instrument and you're
Yeah.
perfecting it in ways that sometimes you may not even have a real guitar, right?
Hmm.
All you're doing is a simulation. That's different from, let's just say, watching something on YouTube.
Right.
But I think Nirvana might not be bands like that might not be the best example because what I'm talking about might involve actually doing a recording that is specifically for the purpose of virtual reality. And you
Right.
can't really do that with a band that doesn't exist anymore. You wouldn't be able to use Kurt Cobain, let's just say, right?
Right.
But you could take
Although
a
VR has showcased how they've been able to recreate Tupac and Michael Jackson
Right.
and
And
have a full show by them.
right, and we're talking about virtual realities specifically, but there's a lot of crazy technology out there today,
Right.
right? With artificial intelligence and different types and machine learning that you know you can
Which I
like
would love to get
reproduce.
into with that.
You know this technology that I'm not really well versed in it, but they will like take the voice of somebody from the past, even like Tupac, right? And they will formulate new sentences. And when
Yeah.
you hear it, the fidelity is so incredible that you think it's them.
Right.
And they're doing that with uh, videos as well.
Is that like
So
deep fake type
deepfake,
stuff?
right,
Yeah.
right. So that tech is even scary, but it's incredibly powerful. It could be applicable to recreating something in virtual reality where you're there with your favorite band. But I'm using that just as an example to explain about things that don't yet exist that are possible that someone is going to build, and why it makes VR so exciting to me. It's going to basically take YouTube to a whole new level of learning in
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah, I agree with you. When it comes down to the YouTube University, that has been my primary source of education for the last 10 plus years. And so all the major skills that I've learned have actually all come from YouTube, the YouTube
Yeah,
University.
I'd like to make a comment on something I like about living in 2021, right? Past pandemic now, but living in this age, and something that I like about you as well. Um, there's really no excuse for anybody to say like, I can't afford to go to a university and I just
Yeah.
can't learn anything new, because the information, there's just so much right now on the web that I just don't even have the time to learn it all. But
You
you could
don't,
be
yeah.
learning, and I learn something new every day, largely through the web. But you could learn anything, and
Yeah.
I have specific things I'm looking at that we could talk about, because I'm in the world of 3D printing now, right? And there's a lot of
Yeah.
knowledge there, but it's really an incredible time. Anybody that's not learning something, it's really their own fault,
It
because
is.
the access to the information is just all you need. Really is like a
Yeah.
tablet and a Wi-Fi connection.
As long as you know what questions to ask, the answers are there. You just got to go through, you just got to do the work. And so I totally agree with you. And going a little bit back, I do want to jump into the 3D aspect that you've been working on. But before we get to that, um, we mentioned VR and gaming and how it's becoming substantial in its own way. I did notice though that when it came down to the development of HoloLens within Microsoft, their actual breadwinner within the VR, I guess, ecosystem that they were creating, they had way more success in selling um, essentially applications they would create for companies. So they would have a partnership with a company. Let's just say, for example, I forget the name of it, but it's an elevator company. They make escalators and elevators. And essentially, this VR application would be able to go into a house, you put on the headset, and it would create what would be built months down the road. But the business owner, the person that owns the house, would be able to see it in action right there on the spot, overlaid over their house. Medical applications, they were making a bunch of those as well. And so it seemed like the gaming stuff is sort of the obvious applications to it, but there was so much more to it in regards to psychology, helping people with traumas and different aspects of the medical field. Um, where do you see VR going in regards of the business world and just every day-to-day basis, things that are not gaming related when it comes to VR?
Right. So you use some great examples of the application of the equipment, right? The technology, and you were referring some aspects to augmented reality. When I say virtual reality, I'm referring to the entire spectrum of immersive technology. But I refer to it as VR because VR is kind of everybody knows what it is.
Yeah.
And then augmented reality, mixed reality are things I still sort of have to explain to people. And also, I'm a huge fan of virtual reality in terms of the immersion. right?
Yeah.
Because a HoloLens is not full immersion. When you put on HoloLens,
Exactly.
you're still in your environment. Like you
Layers.
said, you're on a construction site and things are being built, and then you can put it on and you can see sort of the final product. And
Right.
that visualization is very powerful. But that wouldn't be virtual reality. But I like
So would
the
you call that
entire.
augmented?
We would call it augmented. I mean, I refer to HoloLens as an AR device, but ultimately it's all part of the same thing. The technology is very similar and
Very similar, yeah.
interchangeable, right? If you can create a virtual reality product, you can create an augmented reality product, with some differences, but you have all that it takes. Anyways, I like virtual reality, so I refer to it as VR just to clarify things.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, VR is a medium, right? So HoloLens is a medium. Uh, what I mean by that is that it's not a new product. So if Microsoft was making, let's just say, something that is not a tablet and it's not a smartphone, but it's somewhere in between, it has a touch screen, it has a 2D interface, it would still be in the same paradigm. You could call it something else, but it would be either like a tablet or a smartphone, right? And it would be a new product. It would not be a new medium. VR is a new medium. So in the way that I see it, it applies to anything that you can think of, just as in the same way that computers do. So people had trouble understanding what computers were useful for back in the day. Really, it's like you get this box. What do you use it for?
Right. Right.
So an obvious application, for example, is spreadsheets, because there's only so much computing you can do on a calculator, right? So eventually you need to like keep track of data, and you're managing payroll or whatever. So spreadsheet is like a great way to justify a computer. When it comes to the computer and the internet, buying books through the internet made a lot of sense for people, right? What do I got to go to a bookstore? I can go online. I can find unlimited books, anything
Are
that
you
I
referring to
want.
the origin of Amazon?
I'm referring to
Or
Amazon as an
yeah.
example, but that's something that really made sense for people, that made it very popular in the beginning. It's like, can I go to the library and there's like a limited supply of books because they only have so much physical space, or can I go online and find pretty much everything that's ever been written, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak? And then I order something, and then I have the convenience of having it delivered. So I like that idea. This is a real story, by the way, right? I'm speaking in terms of what really happened. I like that idea. I like the idea of ordering books and having them arrive at my house. So now you can justify buying a computer, because for a long time people were like, what do I need it for? Now I can understand, if I buy one, it gives me the ability to order books to arrive to my house, and I can be using the computer to look for anything that I want to read, right? I'm using that just as an example, but the computer has unlimited applications. You
Mm-hmm.
could use it on cars, you could use it for medical software, you could
Anything.
use it in,
Yeah.
you could use it for anything. So VR is the same way. What I focus on is teaching. I focus on giving people the knowledge to create, which has
Yeah.
nothing to do with universities. Let's just say universities
Mm-hmm.
are a vehicle and they're a means, but if you have all of the knowledge that of anything that could be learned, that you're doing it yourself, and you're, let's just say, you're stuck in your home for whatever reason, limited economic means, um, maybe it's a pandemic, but you cannot leave your house, but you have a VR headset and you have access to content, there you could be doing stuff, right,
Yeah.
and learning in a more powerful way than YouTube, I would say. So that's what I've been thinking in terms of VR application. But gaming does push the boundaries in many ways. It has for PCs, and it does for VR, and it will for VR for some time. And what gaming makes possible is all the other stuff, because
Yeah.
this technology is not easy to develop, really. And VR for a while was really challenging, because it wasn't as refined as it is today. So, the visuals weren't great. People got nauseated sometimes. Today, that's not much of an issue. Um, I could talk more about that because I have a lot of experience with sharing VR with people. But
Yeah. No. Let's dive into the
today is
education
pretty great.
part. And yeah.
So, education is twofold because what we did with Chronos was that we're still doing is teaching people how to create content. You could call that VR development. You could call that augmented reality development, which we've done a lot of with HoloLens. By the way, did you know that the mastermind, the guy that created HoloLens, is Brazilian?
Yeah. Don't tell me. It's I met him.
You have
Shoot, what's his name?
Alex
Uh
Kidman.
yes, Alex. Alex. Yeah, yeah.
So from what I know, his parents live in Curitiba, which is where my parents live as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I met him.
I mean,
Had a chance to meet Bill Gates as well.
uh, I think we've exchanged a few messages, but I don't think he really, knows I exist. But at some point, we'll probably talk, he and I, down the line, when it makes
Maybe we'll
sense.
get him. Maybe we'll get him on the podcast.
Right. You could try. He might be happy to
Yeah.
talk with you. He's a busy guy. I know that, right? He has a lot on his shoulders because I'm very proud of Microsoft for investing the amount of billions that they have into future tech like HoloLens.
Yeah.
It's not something that every company can do, and for a while, it's not even something that companies that could do were willing to do. And Microsoft led the way in that. Apple still doesn't have a product, but if anything, Apple will do it because Microsoft is doing it, and others, right? So, getting back to what you were discussing in terms of applications for virtual reality, that was your question, right?
Yeah, I
My
was,
mind,
yeah, in
my, my,
regards to
my,
just
my
the
mind.
bigger picture.
So my mind is on teaching, Lucas. My mind is on teaching and bringing knowledge to people, right? Let's just say, I'll give you one example that's very real, that really makes the point, right? How long does it take for somebody to learn about the human body to be able to do a particular type of surgery effectively, let's just say,
Quite some
right?
time.
So yeah, sometimes, you have to go through like medical school for 10 years.
Yeah.
And, I definitely recommend that. I'm not saying don't go to medical school, but if we could bring VR to medical school and reduce the amount of time that it takes for somebody to become a surgeon substantially, let's just say
Yeah.
by half, now you're saving more lives and you can bring more people into the real action as opposed to just learning for over a decade before you can actually work on a patient, right?
That was one application that I worked on giving a demo for, which was
Yeah.
a medical application. Yeah.
So that's just an example. I'm talking in terms of time, but even beyond time, for example, sometimes people just don't know something very well. I mean, the human body is extremely complex and hard to understand. No matter how
Yeah.
much you study and learn, there's always something new that you're learning. So if VR can also give you more knowledge,
It's right there on the
we have,
spot.
yeah, we have even people more competent faster,
Right.
right? It
And
just
actually,
benefits everybody.
a good example for that would have been for the medical application. While the doctors had the headset on, in real life, they would have to go back and look at the files from the actual patient while going back and forth. In this case, they were simply able to pull up the files as they were working on the patient, and all the different information would come up right there, overlaid on their reality. And so you're totally right. It's a matter of a concept where we're just able to do things at a next level of efficiency. And when it comes to important jobs like saving lives, that matters.
Yeah, I mean, tech can be used for good or for bad, and I wanted to mention that. So I think VR will be used for everything, in every area that you can
I
think
think
of.
I know where you're going with this one.
I mean, I read stuff online sometimes, like somebody posted a question the other day. They said, is, is there a dating app, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a dating app. She's like, this is would be a great idea. Well, I'm sure somebody's gonna have that idea. I'm sure somebody's gonna get the funding to invest in a company that will build that.
Yeah.
There will be then the next Match.com type of thing. It's just not something I want to work on. Will
Yeah.
there exist? I am convinced that it will exist.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's gonna be like incredible. It's gonna be something. I think the VR in many ways, when we're talking about specific things, specific topics, specific segments, Many people are gonna say, I don't want to do the old way anymore. I want to do it through VR, right?
Yeah.
Dating is an example of that. I mean, do you want to be swiping photos on an app, on a
But
mobile
you're right
phone,
though.
or
You're right. I
that's just an example.
personally, I think that is a continuous hindrance of certain things that it became a fun, cool thing like Tinder or whatever, where you swipe left or right. But really, when you look years ahead and you look at how has it actually played out, it's been a huge detriment to the dating scene. I mean, I can tell you for a fact, um, the concept of swiping left or right, having all these options, at first it seems fun, it seems easy, it seems like you just pull out your phone whenever you're just hanging out and you can line up a date without even having to get off your phone, get off your couch. Well, a lot of the times we are not able to foresee the actual damage that it's going to do until it's done. And I do think, like you said, technology, it really depends how you use it. I do find it important for us to talk about that because I do feel like we live in a world where everything is being said it's okay. Everything is whatever. Just try it out. Just do this. Just do that. And I don't really think we really focus on the effects that these different components that we create have on society. Um, I mean, for example, I mean, I'm sure you've heard people like Elon Musk make several comments about technology itself and how it can be more dangerous than we actually think. What's your thought in regards to us having this morality meter before making things just to make them?
In terms of that, here's how I look at it. Okay, I got into the computer industry fairly early, but I'm talking about that in Brazil, right? If people were doing that here in the United States at the time, they would have started even earlier. Those were the real leaders, I would say. That technology was pretty amazing even at the time. I mean, my first computer was an AT286. Those who go back that far will know what that is. It was the original computer was the XT. It was a clone IBM. Um, Many people at the time were against computers. Not massive numbers of people, but there was definitely a visible group of people that were like, no, we're not going to embrace that. This is going to be bad, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up moving here, pursuing a job at Microsoft, getting a job at Microsoft, and really I dedicated a lot of my time to the development of the technology, right? And I benefited from that in many ways that we could talk about. One of the things that comes to mind for me is his ability to do video like you and I are doing, right?
Yeah.
The original app for that was really Skype,
Yeah.
and I got to use Skype before it got acquired by Microsoft. It was my main app, and I remember that when I had just moved here, it didn't exist. So I would call my parents on a payphone, which no longer exists. I would use a calling card with like a 16-digit number
Hmm.
that I had to punch in. And then a voice would come that was recorded that would say, your call to Brazil is $2 a minute, and you have this balance. And I would get on the phone with my parents, and it was always very brief. Oh, hi, how are you? I'm spending $2 a minute here. This is gonna cost a lot, so we got to keep this short. Everything is fine. Take care, right? And to be able to see somebody um, with a device that you can carry, right, anywhere in your pocket, and to see that person like I'm seeing you right now, and literally for free.
Right.
It's not costing you anything. It's not costing you $2 a minute or even 10 cents a minute. It's really, when you've witnessed that, like I have in my life, because I was born in 75, right? I'm not as young anymore. It's really something, right?
Yeah.
Because today
It really
people
is.
wake up, today people are born, you're much
Take
younger
it
than
for
me, but
granted.
they just take that for granted for sure, right? So
Yeah.
for me, that's the benefit of the technology. I don't want to be part of the group that is against that. today, as it will be with any technology, there will always be that group of people that are going to be against that. And then there are the group of people that are just sort of mindlessly pushing it forward. I don't want to be part of either group, but I don't want to focus on the dark.
Okay, seems like we had a little bit of a technical difficulty here. Ricardo, I think he got locked out. Let me see if we can have him hop back in. Let's see if we can get him back here. Give us 1 second. The things that we deal with in the technological world nowadays, guys. But we're out here. We're out here trying to make exciting content for you guys, informative content, and something that you guys can actually walk away with to apply to your own lives. And he's back. Let's go ahead and how's it going, Ricardo? Let me know if you're back in. Okay, and we're back. I still have no audio coming from you. We're gonna get him back here online in just a second. Experiencing some minor technical difficulties. But aside from that, I do want to say to everybody out there that if technology is something that you feel passionate about, technology is something that you've been thinking about doing and cultivating a skill in, I gotta say, go for it. It's very obvious to me that things are going to be moving in a certain direction. Things have already been moving in a very specific direction when it comes down to our society, our world, and it's becoming quite technological. And so I'm not here to say go be the next Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. But if you are wondering as to what type of career and how to develop your skills, definitely pay attention to how you can incorporate technology that's evolving nowadays in a way where you can bring something new to the table. Because by being able to bring something new to the table, which believe it or not, it's actually not as hard as it sounds. There are many ways that you can fuse ideas, concepts, and ultimately, if you care enough, if you put the hard work and you show up and you put your brain to it and you care about it, there's nothing keeping you from being the next person who brings something new to the table. And the good thing about when it comes out of the technological world is that if you do figure out that sweet spot, not only will you be basically loved for it, very appreciated by others, but the money's not too bad either. This is an industry where, if you figure things out on the technological world, you will get paid handsomely. Now, I'm not saying go for it because of the money. I'm just saying it is a nice plus to be able to develop a skill in an industry where possibilities are truly endless. And we merely have scratched the surface as to what we can actually do with the tools that have been already created and the tools that we're working on right now. I'm going to message you, Ricardo, and see if everything's okay and see if we're going to have to cut things short or if we're going to have to back up online. And we'll get this thing going. But aside from that, guys, we are coming here at the top of the hour, which I think is probably the universe letting us know that we should just perhaps wrap this one up. But I would like to actually throw it out there that technology can be your best friend and it can also be your worst enemy. This is something that has been shown to me through and through, again, with experiences, with different people in my life that I've been able to be around. And you can truly change your life for the better if you use technology the correct way. But like anything else, I believe that the internet, technology in general, is merely a mirror of who you are and what you're all about. And so if you catch yourself feeling like you're wasting your time when using technology, um, be mindful that this isn't the technology's fault. This is you. And so I think we have Ricardo coming back in again. Hopefully it'll work out this time. Let's see if this is gonna work out. But be mindful that you can use it to change your life for the good or for the worst, and that it's completely up to you. So as soon as looks like we have him here back up. Let's see if this is going live. All right, Ricardo. Let me know if you're back in. And I think we are good to go.
Lucas,
Oi,
I'm back, man. I am so sorry.
it's okay, man. Don't worry about it. I
I
was
had some
going off on a tangent here while we were fixing things.
I had some technical problems, and I dialed it from my phone for a minute, but then I got my computer back, and hopefully you can edit this out, right?
Yeah, it's all good. Like I said, I went in on a little tangent on how I feel about technology and how people can either use it for good or for bad. And
I
that's
didn't hear
entirely up to the
it.
person. I know you're gonna have to hear it on the podcast when it comes out.
Oh, I love to hear it, man. I love to hear your take. You don't have to repeat yourself now, but definitely share it with
Yeah.
me so I can hear it. I just wanted to say that when it comes to that, I did my own soul searching, and I just think in terms of what I do, right? If I focus on learning and teaching people knowledge of things, then I don't think I can go wrong with that.
100%. 100%.
And
So let's
everything, yeah.
sorry, go for it.
No, everything we've been talking about, for example, the surgery example, the playing music example, it gets people thinking about these things that I think are ultimately good. So if you're thinking about good, you're not able to think about the dark side of things. And
Yeah.
because VR is still new to a lot of people, I sort of get there first, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. We have a little bit of time here, and I do want to dive into some of the 3D modeling
You know, 3D
aspects
modeling,
of.
3D modeling is an amazing technology that with the use of computers, right? Uh, when I started, it didn't exist as a technology, and it was pioneered by some people that are still alive, and some of them running companies, right? And that technology is really incredible. You can visualize something three-dimensional. Let's use AutoCAD as an example because it's sort of pioneering software, right? You can create parts for cars, for machines, and you can
Yeah.
visualize it because you can rotate it and you can alter the dimensions and you can literally create that with software. It was a revolutionary thing a few decades ago, but you're still seeing that on a two-dimensional screen, much like playing a three-dimensional game, which is not possible on a two-dimensional screen. It's interesting and fun, but that's different than being in the game through VR.
Right,
So
right.
VR provides a visualization, virtual augmented reality, that is like putting you there,
So you
right? When you
fused them together, is what I'm picking up.
Well, 3D modeling is an integral part of immersive content, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to create a game, let's use a game as an example because a game sort of represents everything in VR, right? If you can create a game, you can create just about anything. Um, you're using objects that are three-dimensional, right?
Yeah.
So let's use as an example a game of a bow and an arrow, right? Which exists. It's very satisfying. You hold this bow and you pull the arrow back, and then you let it go, and then the arrow flies. So there's a lot of physics involved,
Yeah.
but physics is only one aspect. The other is that bow is a three-dimensional object, and when you turn your hand and you're looking at it from the other side, it really has to be three-dimensional. That's a different
Right.
type of design. So there's that. Everything that you bring into VR has to be designed three-dimensionally because that's the nature of virtual reality. That's different than, let's say, creating a logo in Photoshop, right? Or doing photography. But another aspect of 3D modeling is modeling things that are for a real product. In which case, you don't even need VR. Let's just say you could do that on using AutoCAD or other software, right? Autodesk or open source on a computer screen, which is what I'm
Yeah.
doing now. Now, you could potentially fuse the two, which is something that really interests me that I've been toying with, let's just say. Think of it as creating a store of products that you walk in, much like the Starbucks that I'm in, right?
Yeah.
And imagine this is a real store with real products, and this is one of the products, okay? And you model that for your virtual store, but it's also a product that people see it and then they can order it and then it gets to their home,
Right.
right? So you're creating a model that will produce this product in real life and it's also used in VR at the same time. I think this is really the future of shopping, to be honest.
I don't doubt it. I mean, do you see the vast majority of companies using 3D modeling? I don't know, maybe between the next 2 to 5 years.
Well, 3D modeling is used in a lot of industries, so it's really an amazing investment that anybody could make, in my opinion. Because even with 3D modeling right now, a lot of what I'm doing is CAD modeling, right? That's what I'm doing. It's parametric, it's industrial, you could say. But there's an aspect of modeling, let's just say, that is, for example, the movie industry uses it heavily, right?
Hmm.
So when you watch a movie, let me think of a few movies, but most movies use heavy aspects of 3D modeling and VFX, right?
Yeah.
Think of it like Inception, right? You know, you watch that movie, they take the like a city or a city block, and then they lift it
Fold it
and they
over.
put it on top of it, and you have all the lighting that's involved with that.
Yeah.
So imagine that you're gonna do something like that, but you're not using computer software, right? You have to create an illusion that's pretty difficult to do. It can be done because it was done before computers, but today you can hire somebody that's really an expert with that kind of technology, and you substantially reduce the cost.
Yeah.
And what you can create is literally limitless,
It's
right?
mind blowing.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, you can create, let's just say, background. You know, like we could talk about that, okay? Because we're not talking too much about movies, but the green screen is a pretty established method, right?
Yeah.
I'm recording you. There's this green screen behind you, and I'm gonna basically create a background behind you that is not there right now,
Hmm.
and that's gonna be done by computer
Yeah.
software, and it's gonna be anything that I want. Anything. It could
Yeah.
be. I could put you, let's just say, on another planet, even. Right.
Actually, that's how all my art covers for my songs are created.
Right.
Yeah.
So now that technology is being green screen is actually becoming obsolete.
Yeah.
Now they're using real screens that are using game engines, right, that are generating the background. So you as the actor can even see where you are
Right. 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 Yeah, I've heard of that.
in real
Hmm.
time.
Real
And then,
time.
and then those two are being recorded, let's just say in real time. It's really amazing. But where I'm going with that is that that's an application that uses 3D modeling skills, let's just say, that is even very outside of VR, and it's very pays very well. Somebody can go into that and go into the film industry with that, and they basically have work forever,
Right.
right? That pays really well. There's some Brazilians that I know that are really leading that down in LA. You know that.
That's actually a part of the comment I was going into when we're figuring out the technicality about things, which kind of leads me to my last question for you here. So, if you had 60 seconds to tell any young person out there who has been considering going after a technological skill, working on VR, working on 3D modeling, what would be your advice for them?
Gosh, That's difficult to say. First of all, technology today, computer technology is really, really super exciting to me because there's so many different segments and fields that you could go into. Everything that we're talking about, virtual reality is just one of them. 3D modeling is just one of them. And
Yeah.
you can't do it all. You have to pick one and sort of be specialized. I think 3D modeling is an amazing skill because it's applicable to a lot of industries.
Yeah.
That's probably something I would invest in. It's not just immersive. When you're talking VR, you're really investing in everybody having a VR headset at some point. At
Right.
that point, it's going to be incredible. But we're not there yet. When you're doing 3D modeling, you could be doing what I'm doing, for example, which is 3D printing, right? And then you can apply that to virtual reality. You could apply that to games that's not virtual reality. You could apply that to the film industry. You could apply that to a lot of different industries.
Right.
So I favor 3D modeling for that reason, but really, there's so many different things right now, robotics or artificial intelligence. There's some really exciting things to go into that are going to be really amazing. I think it's really ultimately about finding what you want to do. You said something earlier that I kind of latched on. You said ask the right questions when you're talking about YouTube University.
Yeah.
You're very right about that. I also think that it's really important to know what you want to do. If you know what you want to do, everything just kind of follows. Google will follow you. Google will be like, hey, you're looking for this thing. We know what you like. We know what you're about. And then they just bombard you with information about that which you really like. They know you really
Yeah.
well. So it's important to know what you want to do that you like, and the rest will just follow.
Well, there
Does
you
that make
go.
sense?
That makes 100% chance. I mean, it's a good point to finish at since we're coming up here at the top of the hour. Where can people keep up with your work? Give us a link where people can keep up with you.
Well, I'm on Facebook. I'm going to be launching my 3D modeling real soon. So I've been working on a website for that. That's a repository for everything. I'm putting some things open source where it's like just download it and print it. I've made a lot of things that you could be maybe using for your house, you
Okay.
know. But we're on Facebook. We're on social media following Kronos. You can find us on Instagram.
I'll put the links in the description.
And if something is missing, let me know. But if people just search for Kronos Global Academy, which is a company that I spent over 5 years building, we are on all social media, right?
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hey man, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. I know it was a little bit shorter than what we expected, but hopefully we'll be able to get you in the podcast down the road later this year. And
Yeah, when you
I'm gonna
produce
be
it,
back in
please share it
Seattle.
with me. Yeah, or
Yeah.
where are you right now?
I'm in Florida right now.
Oh man, I didn't know. I thought you were here. But hey, it's a
Yep.
pleasure talking with you. Thank you for the opportunity, and yeah, we'd love to hear from you again. Okay.
Yeah, man. Likewise. Well,
Enjoy.
there you have it, guys. Thank
Enjoy
you so
Florida.
much. Take it easy, my friend.
We'll talk soon, Lucas. Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode from Appropriate Culture. If you want to watch other episodes, make sure to make your way to appropriateculture.com. You can also hang out with us in other social media platforms. They're all in the link in the description. And aside from that, if you want to listen to the podcast on other platforms like Audible, Spotify, any of those, you can also find us there as well. Link in the description. Take it easy, guys. Have a good day.